Spain led the charge. You were one of the first to have a reopening policy. You were one of the first to put in a furlough scheme to keep your workers skilled. Did that pay off in the end?
I think it did. I think it greatly did, because as you see, Spain tourism represents over 12.5% of GDP previous to the pandemic, and more than 13% of employment. Tourism last year in 2020 accounted for 5.5% of GDP, so it was a half of the previous mark in 2019. But employment only went down 5%. So the furlough schemes allowed the tourism workers to stay in place, the tourism industry to survive. So when the reopening of the tourism and the travel sector happened, we were ready to go.
Was the digital COVID certificate a game changer for you?
Definitely it was. Definitely it was. We were at the forefront of countries that thought that we needed more coordination among nations to reopen travel. We launched an initiative also at the OECD level, also at the European Union level. I think you can see what a dramatic change it has meant for the travel sector. People have traveled this last summer season more confidently, not only because of the availability of vaccines, which was the real game changer, but also because people knew among the European Union member states what to expect when they wanted to travel. There was confidence in the system, and I think the EU travel now adopted by more than, I think it's more than 50 countries, almost 60 countries. Not only the European Union countries, but also 33 other countries have adopted the European Union certificate, has proven the game changer for this pandemic situation.
Now, the change before December, when some restrictions came back, from your perspective, watching all of that, do you think that it has survived the crisis, or are there more questions to be asked of the system that came in last July?
I think that the new variant, Omicron, was unexpected by most people. Scientists had warned us that the pandemic was not over, that the evolution of the pandemic could go many ways, even with the vaccine, which was, as I said, the real game changer. But I think governments, businesses, citizens have learned a lot during these last 21 months. We have gone from fear and the unexpected and the unknown. We have gone to some type of management of the pandemic. We see things with much less fear. We know that we need to keep working on how to manage the pandemic, but we know that it's manageable. The restrictions, some countries, at least in some regions in Spain, for example, there was introduction of the COVID certificate to do certain activities and go certain places. But with over 90% of the population fully vaccinated, they proved they didn't help much. So they have abolished that restriction because most people are fully vaccinated. So it was not relevant for the control of the pandemic. I think that as we go into 2022, we're going to see a more drastic change in the management of the pandemic. We have learned how to prevent infections. We have learned that face masks are very relevant in the prevention of infections. And now we the citizens can take more informed decisions about our health. And I think that it's going to be that way as as we progress. Governments will have and businesses will have to give us information for us to take informed decisions about not only traveling but other type of decisions in our daily life. And in Spain, what we have done, and this has been a constant in the management of the pandemic. During the first wave of the pandemic in early 2020, we developed 21 guides to prevent infection in 21 different tourism activities. These guides were implemented during the pandemic, during the first wave of the pandemic when we were in lockdown, in the public and private sector, making tourism one of the safest activities to do in your daily life. Spain, which is a significant tourist destination in the world, we haven't had any of the big, waves or sparks or outbreaks in the tourism sector, in the tourism value chain. There have been outbreaks, but hardly any in a hotel, in a resort, in an airplane, in a museum. Most of those outbreaks have been in all the routinary activities of our daily life. These 21 guides have now become international standards at ICO. Also, what we said, Spain needs to be coherent. So some destinations which are smaller, we have to remember that we received 84 million passengers tourists in 2019. We have a responsibility as one of the main tourist destinations in the world, as the favorite holiday destination for many people in Europe and elsewhere. Just a small parenthesis is we have a market share of more than 50% of international travel in many countries in the world. We needed to be consistent and coherent with the policies that we were taking. So some countries decided that they were going to open despite not having enough scientific evidence on how to open. Some other countries decided that it was very important to open regardless of other factors. What we said is and sometimes they took a step forward and then 2 steps backwards. What we decided is that once Spain took a step forward, we couldn't go backwards. It needed to be consistent. So last Fitur in May 2020, the president announced that Spain was going to be open to the rest of the world with one simple requirement: full vaccination. Fully vaccinated people could come to Spain from the rest of the world. There were exceptions. When the outbreak happened in India, when the outbreak happened, the new variant happened in Brazil or South Africa, but they were exceptions, very limited exceptions. This has proven a game changer as well, because the tourism business or the trade knew what to expect from Spain. They knew they could open operations with Spain, and that there were not going to be changes every week, every month, every now and then. We were going to be consistent. And I think this has proven a very successful strategy, not only for 2020 and 2021, but especially for 22, 23, 24, as a destination that you can trust. And trust is going to be one of the words of the present and the future of tourism.
Do you fear for the digital COVID certificate with restrictions on the second phase? Do you fear for how robust the digital COVID certificate will be in the summer coming, with the questions about the 9 months expiry and boosters and everything like that? Does that raise questions that worry you? You preside over the biggest inbound tourism market.
Yeah. See, last summer it was, okay, we are requiring a COVID certificate, but vaccines are not yet ready available. They haven't been deployed in all of our markets, and that means that only a fraction of the people who want to travel can travel. And we had to live with that for the sake of keeping the destination safe, the workers and the rest and the other visitors coming to the destination. There are going to be factors that alter the normal development of affairs. Of course, we are living a world pandemic. We haven't lived one before of this scale. So there will be things that we will have to learn how to manage, specific things. But the truth of the matter is that for Spain, the COVID certificate is, after vaccination, the single most useful tool to secure seamless, restrictionless travel. People know that. People know that they have to comply with requirements about vaccination to move, not just to Spain, but to move around. There are examples of that, recent examples of that, very, media covered examples of how important is it for you to be fully vaccinated. And I think people, even in the most reluctant countries, are starting to accept that this is the new normal. In the 19th, I was surprised when I read that passports were not common before the First World War. People just went places. You didn't have to show anyone a document saying that you were such and such from Dusseldorf or Manchester or Dublin for the thing. They were imposed during World War I, and after World War I they were, procured because there were spies and conspiracy theories all over, and now we take for granted that of course you need a passport to travel. I'm sure that people now that are, in their teen years or your children, when they have to travel in a few years by themselves, they wouldn't even ask if they need a travel certificate if this is to stay. They will just do it. And I think that we are working on that. Is this going to be in the long run? We're going to have to have our pass certificate in the long run? I don't know.
Speaking of children, last May when open to vaccination was announced and I was here, one of the big questions was what would happen with the family market, because it would be a long time before children would be double vaccinated. What's Spain's experience as the country that does an awful lot of family holidays, much more than the rest of Europe put together nearly?
We had a tough decision to make last winter, a few months ago, due to the rapid increase in infections in the UK, for example, and being the UK a non-EU country, we had to take the decision to keep our simple rule of only fully vaccinated passengers to be allowed into Spain. Before, UK passengers could come to Spain also with a negative test. The UK had followed a policy of vaccinating people over the age of 16. They were not vaccinating people under the age of 16. In the European countries, the policy was vaccinating everyone over the age of 12. So when infections went up very rapidly due to the Omicron variant in the UK, of course, the age group 12 to 16, which were not vaccinated, was one of the highest transmitters of the infections of the disease in the UK population. Our health minister and our health ministry decided that it was paramount to contain the infection rate in Spain to allowed only fully vaccinated teams from the UK into Spain. This was controversial with the British industry, but at the moment we had to secure the safety of our workers, tourism workers, the destination, and the rest of the visitors that we had in our country. We needed to prioritize safety over quantity, and we had to do it, and we did it. The UK government decided to open vaccination for children over the age of 5 and the age of 12, and they are in the process of fully vaccinating this age group. And we are working to see if the pandemic, it seems, this wave is being controlled, how to make it easier for British families to come to Spain. But I put this example of the UK as Spain will always put safety first. I think that now that science has produced vaccines which are safe for children, we will find that they are in the same position as adults. They will need to be fully vaccinated to move around, not just to Spain, to move around and to do things in the forthcoming future.
You've been to hell and back with COVID in every aspect in Spain and in Europe. What needs to happen next for you to look forward with confidence and to the family of Spanish tourism that you are the father of now?
Well, I think that as terrible as the pandemic has been to Spain and to the rest of Europe and the world, really, there are lessons to be learned and opportunities to be grabbed. For once, one opportunity is Spain is very well known as a sun and beach destination, as a holiday destination to, do nothing and lay by the sea and under the sun. Irish holiday makers know this very well, and we're very happy to receive so many Irish visitors every year. But the scope has broadened. Many people now are also looking at other types of destinations, other types of experiences, other products, other services. This is a huge opportunity for a country as diverse, as different, as big as Spain. Of course, our Mediterranean coastal resorts on the archipelagos are great, one of the best in the world destinations. And we will make sure that they keep that way. But this has opened the opportunity for people to know inland destinations, nature destinations. Spain is one of the countries with more preserved and protected natural spaces in Europe and the world. Spain has the largest, is in the top 3 largest countries with most heritage sites by UNESCO after Italy and China. Not that many people know that. Not that many people know that gastronomy in Spain is rooted into tradition and our splendid agricultural sector and our splendid, cattle and products and produce. So I think this has opened an opportunity for many destinations in Spain, because consumers are not just looking at, their favorite sun and beach destination. They are looking also sideways to other, for other things to do, for other experiences to be,
And how do we exploit that opportunity? Because every director of Tour Spain has had to listen to the same argument from the less visited regions.
Sure.
Every year. Now you say the opportunity has come.
So
is it going to be done through marketing? Is it going to be done through
No. So, as we were saying, I think that this pandemic, as horrible as it has been, is bringing new opportunity. This opportunity is not just marketing. You need to invest in producing, in creating new tourism products for the international visitor. Spain is putting 3.4 billion euros, that's 3.4 billion euros into the tourism sector from the Next Generation funds, EU Next Generation funds, for sustainability products, for conservation of heritage sites, for improvement of destinations, and we're especially addressing the necessity of creating products that are demanded by the international consumer. 3.4 billion euros is a lot of money. So it's not just, okay, let's say that any destination in inland Spain is great. Let's make that inland destination great for this international demand, and then we will make sure that that is marketed the right way. And one example is sustainability. There is a lot of work out there. Sustainability is the new, is the work of the moment. There is a peril of many people in the industry doing what is called greenwashing and saying, okay, we're sustainable, and sustainable is going to be a word that we use very much or that we hear very much, and sometimes we're not going to know what someone is saying when they are saying we are sustainable, or we are going to say, well, listen, where is the trick there? But Spain is going to be probably the most committed country for sustainable tourism. We're putting 2 billion euros, 2.0 billion euros into sustainable projects in the tourism sector in Spain in the next 3 years to transform the tourism model. So every visitor that comes to Spain makes an improvement not only in the well-being of our citizens, and not just in the macroeconomic level, not because they are producing, international currency, or because every new visitor to Spain increases the quality of life of Spanish residents. That means that it produces opportunities for people in the inland regions. It means that they produce better quality of life for the coastal resorts, and it means that also we are not just not damaging the environment, we're helping to use or to live the environment in a more sustainable way. Listen, there are other countries that are, really good at some other industries. I can think about Germany with cars, and some others with the aircraft industry. We are good at tourism. We are at the forefront of tourism in the world. So we have taken a challenge very seriously in this ministry and with the rest of the regions and the destinations and the tourism sector, that we have to invent the tourism of the future. In Spain, we need to invent the tourism of the future, because our economy, our quality of life, the equilibrium of our country, the redistribution of population in our country, the well-being of our country depends on us being at the forefront of one of the most important industries in the country. So we will be fully committed for not just talking about sustainability, for example, but working on sustainability and investing in sustainability.
The one is, when it comes to the misunderstandings you see out there, the messaging, the media messaging about COVID, about Spain, what are the ones that need to be addressed?
We have, not just in Spain, we have been very quick at finger pointing what was wrong, how bad things were. I'm sad that many in the world finger pointed tourism as the cause of the pandemic, at the beginning of the pandemic, and that many countries, as soon as an outbreak happened, put restrictions on travel as a way of showing off that they were doing something. And sometimes I think that the tourism sector has been finger pointed unjustly, and has suffered the consequences. And I think that we governments need to work with more coordination. We need to treat everyone as serious adults, and I think that we need, in this phase of the pandemic, more and more we will need to inform the public for them to take informed decisions. And I think that we have suffered in Spain a lot by the pandemic. We had many people who got infected, and this was it was not the mistake of anyone. It was not a mistake of any government. It was not a mistake of any company. It was a pandemic that we had to learn how to manage, as we speak, as it happened, as elsewhere in the world. So, not to Spain, but I say that it was intelligent, for example, for WHO to not name variants out of the countries that raised their hand saying there is something different here, and named them after the Greek alphabet, because no one is to be blamed about this. And I think that our commitment as a destination, as a government, is to make travel, not just to Spain, make travel a safe activity, but also a fun activity, a desirable activity, an aspirational activity. One of my biggest concerns at the beginning of the pandemic was we need to keep people dreaming about traveling. We need to keep people, there was a danger of people saying, okay, I'll spend my money elsewhere. Travel is unsafe. Travel is a hazard now, or is difficult to do. Let's just buy a new gadget, or let's buy a car, or we needed to keep traveling in the dreams and aspirations of the public out there. And I think we've managed to do that, everyone. And I think there is huge pent-up demand. People see travel as a way of saying it's over. This pandemic, as we lived it, is over. If I'm traveling again, is that we have gone to some back of normal. So I think we have to keep those spirits high and do that.
Thank you.